Hey guys, today we're going to go over GitHub. I know we talked about it in class yesterday, but I'm also experimenting with a new streaming software, so I wanted you guys to, I wanted to try that out a little bit today. So we're going to be working with GitHub, which is a, well, like I explained yesterday, it's kind of, it really helps teams work together, but since you guys are mostly working individually, the other thing that it really does super well is it helps you save your work and go back to what you were working on before, which is super useful when you're learning to code and you have things working and then you make changes and then, you know, it seems like awful things happened and you're trying to debug it and you're like, man, I just wish I could go back to what, you know, when it was working 15 or 20 minutes ago. So GitHub is going to help you do that, and that's all we're really going to use it for today. There's a lot more that you can use Git for. But I'm going to go into a little bit more of an explanation than I did yesterday. So let's take a look at GitHub Desktop, and we're going to download that today. Now, kids, show this to your parents. Parents, the kids are going to need to download some software to work in this class. So please help your kids download the software they need to download so that they have the tools they need to be successful. Okay, with that said, we're going to go ahead and download a GitHub Desktop. So first off, we need to go to GitHub, and you go to desktop.github.com. Desktop.github.com. It's right there at the top where my cursor is, or if you just Google GitHub Desktop, it will take you to this page. And then you'll download it. Now, I've already downloaded it. You guys don't want to watch me do that. I've downloaded it and I've installed it. So download it and install it. If you need help, there's definitely tutorials online for doing that. Or you can just get some help in class and we'll help you out. But when you run it, it will ask you, it'll say, hey, you downloaded this from the web. Are you sure you want to use it? Yes, it's safe to use. So just say yes. But let's go ahead and install it. Now, this is me doing it for the very first time. So I'm sure this demo will be a little bit clunky, and that I think that's okay. It will be, we'll call it maybe not clunky, we'll call it real, right? Or authentic. So you're going to go ahead and put your username and password for GitHub in there. Now, if you don't have a username and password, then let's see. If you don't have a username and password, then you need to go to github.com. And now I'm already logged in. Actually, let me go ahead and just do this in an incognito window. GitHub.com. All right, and then yeah, just pick a username, put your email in, and a password, and then sign up for GitHub. Once you've got that username and password set up, that's what you're going to use over here. So you'll put your username and password in, then just you can accept whatever settings come up here. It'll have your name and, you know, whatever you put in there for your name and your email should show up over here. So I'll just click continue. Yes, you can help them out with statistics. Excuse me. Now I can go ahead and use this. You can tell I've got quite a few repositories that I've got up on GitHub. But we're not going to worry about that right now. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new repository and to create a new repository on your hard drive. Yep, I think that's what we're going to do first, okay? So we'll click that and we're going to type, this will be GitHub. Now, for you guys, you can name this anything you want, but I'm going to call it GitHub Desktop. And tutorial. You're going to want to call it something like Checkers or whatever the project that you're working on. You're not going to name it GitHub. You know, in fact, I'll just change this so it's not confusing. My project. Okay, so call it something like Checkers or whatever. Okay, description. You can fill that out if you want to. You can initialize it with a README if you feel like it. But we're going to go ahead and, and this local path is where you can just accept the default. The important thing, though, is you remember what that is, okay? I'm actually going to choose a specific path for mine because there's a certain place I want it to be but you can choose anywhere for it, or just take the default. All right. So I'll hit create repository. Like I said, though, remember where you created it. Okay. So the default, I think, is in like your documents folder under another folder called GitHub. So I'm going to switch over here, and I'm actually going to find that folder real quick that was just created. See there's the folder that was just created, my project tutorial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my work from the ACA, from my Checkers project. I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to paste it in here, right? All right, and I look, boom, look at all this, okay? Suddenly I see all these changes, all these new files were added, okay? Excuse me. There's the README, there's, yeah, just all of this stuff. Okay, you may not have all those. Certainly you won't have like a license file. But anyway, so these have all been added, and you'll notice it's got a little plus sign. So I'm just going to put, you know, added by Checkers Project. Okay, now this is like basically creating save points. Okay, so I'm going to say I added my Checkers project, and I'm going to commit that. It says commit to master. We're not even going to begin to talk about branching and things like that. Okay, master is the main or master branch for your application. Right now, we're going to just do everything on master, and that way we can mostly ignore it. Okay, excuse me. And then we can go over here and look. We see all our files. Okay. Now let's go ahead and make a change to one of these files. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code, which if you have not installed Visual Studio Code, or at least if you've not installed some good code editor, you need to do that. So you know, if you're already using something, and I just, you know, it's a good idea to have Visual Studio Code installed. It works well. I tend to use WebStorm, but WebStorm costs money, and so this is probably the best free one that I've run into. Which says a lot, because I'm not a big Microsoft fan, and this is a Microsoft product, and they're doing a pretty good job with it. Okay, with that said, let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and open up that folder. And remember, you got to remember where you put your folder. I put mine under Git ACA My Project Tutorial, and I'll just open the whole folder so I can see all of the files in it. Okay, so I see all these files. Here's the files that are in the folder. And I'm going to just make a change to one of those files. Okay, so maybe on my board, I'm going to say, you know what I need a big old H1 tag. Oh, let's take a look at where our project is right now. Okay, so here's our project. I guess I can get rid of this. There's my game board, right? And let me make sure. I'm going to go ahead and view that project from my hard drive. There we go. All right, that will work a little better. So there's my game board. Okay, as it exists right now. I'm going to go ahead and make a quick change to it. So let's see, body. I need a title, right? This whole time I've had this project, and I haven't given it a title. Let's play checkers. And you need exclamation points, right? Because it's a title. All right, let's take a look at that. Refresh my page. Boom, let's play checkers. All right, that's good. So now I'm going to go back over here to GitHub Desktop. And you can see now the icon over here is a little bit different. Okay, before we had a little plus sign that showed us that we had added a file. Now I've got a little yellow thing that just says you've modified a file. Okay, so and it shows me exactly what I did. Let's play checkers. Okay, so I'll just, now you don't have to be this pedantic about saving your work, but you could be, and then you'd be able to really back up. Okay. But I'll just put added title. All right, let's commit that. Boom, it's committed. And then let's say you know, like, oh, I really want this title to be centered. So style, align, center. A-L-I. Did I spell that right? Oh, it's text align. There we go. All right, refresh it. Boom, look at that. Let's play checkers. It's all centered. I'm happy with that. But let's say it's not working. It wasn't working the way I wanted. I'm like, oh man, you know, it's not working how I wanted it to work. And I just want to get rid of the changes that I've made because I just don't, I don't want it centered and I can't remember how to undo that. Okay, now, obviously I'm being stupid and I can remember that, but let's say that I'm 30 minutes down the road and I've made some changes and I'm like, oh, I just want to go back to where I was. So I go to my history, on my local changes here, I can actually say right here, discard all changes, okay? Or discard changes. So I can discard those and says, hey, are you sure you want to discard all changes to board HTML, okay? Now if I had several files that had been changed, I could say discard all changes, okay? But right now, since there's only one file, both of them have the same effect, okay? So I'm gonna say, yeah, I want to discard my changes. I recommend don't check this box because you probably want to be reminded, like, you're going to lose the work. You're going to lose your work, okay, if you do this. And I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to discard my changes, okay? Now go back over here, and if I look at my code, look, that text align is gone, and if I just refresh the page, you can see Let's Play Checkers has been moved back, okay? But let's say I don't want to just discard my changes. Maybe I need to go a ways back, okay? So if you look, I've got, I've got all of these, the whole history of the project, and I can see everything that's been changed. You know, I added, all these files, and I can look at each individual file and see what was actually added or edited, okay? I can undo, I can revert a specific commit. Okay, so let me show you that, guys. So let's say we do Let's Play Checkers, and then I decide, you know what, I want a checkerboard, but you know what, I think my checkerboard should have 7 rows. So I'm going to delete one of these middle rows, or maybe I'll have 6 rows. This is going to be a really up close and personal chess game. So I save that. And then I come over here and I look at my changes and I'm like, yeah, cool, that's what I want. I'm going to go ahead and removed extra rows because we don't need those extra rows. There's not checkers on them. Right? So I create that commit and then I go look at it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be the best game of checkers ever. And I'm like, oh, well, you know what? That's not actually what I wanted. Now black has really got a real advantage here. And I'm not sure how to get it back. Like, oh, this is kind of dumb. So what I can do, go back to my history, and I can see, all right, in this one, I deleted these rows, and I didn't really want to delete those rows. But you know what? Let me make it even more complicated, okay? Let's say that I had actually done some work here. Maybe I had my style tag and text align, center, save that. I'm like, okay, cool, I like that. I want to save that. I centered the title. Alright, cool. And then I realized, I just don't like this 6-column or 6-row layout. It just seems stupid. And it doesn't make sense that we have different numbers of checkers. So then I go and I decide, you know what, I don't want to do, I still got this change, but this one change right here, I don't really like it. I'm going to revert this commit. Okay? Revert that commit, and it automatically, what it did is it created an opposite commit. Right? It swapped it out. So where it did basically the opposite thing. This one was deleting all those lines, so this commit added all the lines back. If I go back and look and refresh my page, notice I've got my checkerboard back, but look, the change I made afterwards to center the title, that did not go away, okay? So you can actually go back and cherry pick a specific change that you made, and you're like, this is where things went wrong, I want to undo that, I hate it, boom. Okay, now, Git can be so much more complicated than this, okay? This is just the surface of it. We're just using it locally to make changes to our files, okay, so that we can, so we have a history of all the changes that are made. And I promise you guys, listen, if you get this all, as long as you're making these changes and you're saving relatively, frequently, you're like, okay, cool, this is working, it's working the way I want it, I'm pretty happy with how it looks right now, and then you go ahead and make a commit at that point. If you do that, and then you come into class and you're like, hey, Mr. Erskine, my project is totally hosed. I don't know how to fix it. I'm not sure even how to get back to what was working in Git because I tried this and I reverted a commit and I'm confused right now. Because there's this history and I can go back through and I can look, oh, okay, this is what you did. I'm fairly confident that I will be able to recreate your project to the point that, and maybe not even just recreate it, but also pull in all the other good work. Because this basically, it's like, it gives us all the evidence for us to do the detective work we need to do to rebuild the mistake that you made or to undo the mistake that you made. Okay? So this is a super useful tool. This has just been the bare basics of using GitHub Desktop. But it's really easy. I like it a lot for what it does. So I recommend all of you guys will go ahead and do that. And then as far as turning in your work, what we can do then is we'll actually publish that work to GitHub. So then your work will be out there on a repo that we can go look at, which will be great. Okay, we can even do private repos if we need to. But GitHub is just really super handy as far as sharing code that way. So anyway, guys, I hope this was helpful. Please install GitHub and get your Checkers project pushed up. In fact, let me actually go ahead and do that now to make sure that that you guys can see what that looks like. So if I just hit publish repository, right, it says github.com. That's going to be the default because it's made by GitHub, and then the name is whatever your name is. The organization, you guys probably won't have any organizations available, and so I would just leave that for none if you want a description. And you can have this check mark to keep the code private. Okay, so you can do that. Excuse me. And then, or you could just make it public, and then other people would be able to see it. To be really honest, okay, the way we share in this class, I don't really care whether or not your code is public or private. If it's private, you're going to have to do an extra step of sharing that project with me, but I can help you with that. Okay, so let's go ahead and publish the repository. Wait, it's going on up there. And while that's getting pushed up to GitHub, let me go ahead and bring up github.com. All right, so that looks like it's done. It's pushed. Okay, and here we go. So here is my project tutorial with all the stuff. And if we go look at board.html, which we've been making changes to, this is on the internet, right? In a private repository. Look, there's our Let's Play Checkers title that we just added. Okay, and then but this is also a private repository. Okay, so nobody can see it. But like I said, if you guys want to make it public, that's totally fine. It's not like anybody's really going to care about your Checkers project. Now, when you get a little further down the road and you're doing things that are even more complicated, then having things up on GitHub where because it's a community of people who are sharing code, you might actually be able to say to somebody down the road, like, oh yeah, you know what, I did that on this other project. Let me share that with you, or let me just send you a link to that so that you can go take a look at it. Or other people might just find your code and see, oh wow, this is super useful. I really have always wanted to play checkers on the computer, and you know, but anyway, it's a great community. But like I said, if you want to just keep your code private, that's perfectly all right. And then adding people to the repository, I'll do that in a separate video, or we'll just help you do that in class. So anyway, hope that was helpful, guys. I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to ramble, so I should probably stop talking. Listen, it's been great. Don't forget, guys, the purpose of all of this, right, of learning to code and learning to be creative with software, honestly, it's to model our maker, you know, or to copy the example that he gave, and to just to offer him worship. So if you're getting frustrated and you're not in that place where, wow, this is like I'm enjoying what I'm doing, definitely let us know, because I don't ever want it to be that way for you. I want for this to be an educational experience where you're pushed and you're stretched, yes, okay, but not where you're overwhelmed. And I want it ultimately for this to be something that you can do as an act of worship, because God loves us, He created us, and He created us to be creators. And that's the whole point here, guys. Anyway, love you guys. Have a great day, and enjoy GitHub.